Hey, welcome back to Atypical Talk. This is a podcast where we have conversations that illuminate the intersection of faith, culture, and the common spaces of our humanity. I'm Abby.
I'm Allison.
And I'm Batman. Just kidding. I'm Joel. I've
Send
wanted
help.
to do that. I've wanted to do that so long, and in the moment I just said, Joel, go for it.
I wish
Send
we had
help.
Batman in the studio.
Okay.
That would-
Sorry
that
to
would be
disappoint.
great.
I'm here.
So our first question today is, what is your favorite vacation memory? We talk about vacations and trips a lot, but what is your favorite memory that you can think of?
I love traveling, but some of my favorites are back when I was younger, maybe middle school. My mom and I used to vacation together quite a bit, but we took two like super memorable trips, one to Alaska and one to the Bahamas, where it was just the two of us. And so I love that. It was so memorable. They were incredible trips, and just the time together and the adventure was good. But yeah, most recently, like my family, my immediate family, we travel to lots of different ballparks around the United States. And
MLB.
yeah, Major League ballparks. Yes. And so those are just, I love that too, because it's just time with our kids that as they're getting older, like that's not going to happen as much anymore. So just those trips have been super fun.
That's cool.
It's funny you say that because I feel like right now with our boys being 2 years old and 4 years old, when we all go together, it's not a vacation, it's a trip.
Yeah, there's a difference.
And it's a trip because it's like, I mean, we have fun, but it's like you are not rejuvenated through those trips because they're just so intense. It's like, oh, let's like take them out of their like perfect environment where we have all these systems to keep them safe and they have rhythms and times and schedules. Let's blow it all up for a week and have lots of fun. But I think growing up, two vacations that I still think about, one was in the Bahamas. That my mom and dad took us to for a few days, and I remember that I got my hair
braided. I did
got my hair
too.
braided,
Yeah.
And this is the best part though, not like you, I'm sure, but I was gonna do my whole head, and they did like two braids, and it hurt so bad that I'm like, call it. So I came back to like the United States with like two little braids in my hair. I need to find a picture. I looked so ridiculous.
I love that. No, we did my whole head.
Yeah, it was like two braids, and it hurt really bad. And I was like, probably freshman in high school. That's no excuse. But I remember also going to the Smoky Mountains, the Gatlinburg area, being pretty young, and going to a place where my dad told me that, if we get right here, if you can reach out and you can touch a cloud, we're up that high. Whoa. And I remember him like holding me out to where I don't know if it was
fog.
Actually a cloud, or more likely it was fog, but I thought that I literally touched a cloud, and that was such a special kind of thing.
That's cool.
Think about that. The other vacation that pops into my head is about a little over 3 years ago. Megan and I, we went to Cancun, Mexico, just the two of us, February of 2020, and it was like the greatest like sigh of relief and just a breath, because it was right in the season where we were starting the church, and it was this whirlwind for like 8 months of just working really, really hard to get everything together. And we went, and it was just like I had no responsibilities. We just had great conversation, connection, reading books. It was beautiful. The food was great. And I remember when we were in the airport on the way home, everybody was like asking all these questions about, have you been to China, and have you been in touch with the coronavirus? And we're like, what is this all about? This is February of 2020.
Never even heard of that. Yeah.
Not a big deal at all. And came home and the world changed forever. But I just remember that like that week was like the greatest like exhale with my best friend. And so I think about that trip fondly, and then coming back into the whirlwind of the next 2 years of a global pandemic and starting a church, and I don't think about it too much. But that was the great sigh of relief and exhale right before the big run. But I remember that too. What about you, Abby?
Yeah. So growing up, we went camping a lot, and so anytime we went camping, it's just fond memories of, sitting around the campfire, looking for wild animals. One time we had skunks come straight up to our camper, and my mom screamed so loud. She opened the camper door, and there were just skunks there at the steps.
Yeah, and then
I'm
you're
sure
like,
screaming
what do you
really
do?
was great for these skunks. I'm sure they didn't like expel any smells at all.
Please go.
Yeah, but one of my favorite memories, I honestly don't even remember where we went, but my younger siblings went down for a nap during the middle of the day, and my mom came to me and my older brothers and was like, do you guys want to go on a hike? We went on an 8-mile long hike. It was a super long hike for us at that age, but it was so much fun. I felt like such a grown-up being able to do that hike with my mom, and it was just a lot of great memories, and I still love hiking to this day. So that was awesome. Yeah. And I just got back from a trip with my family. Yeah.
Camping again.
Yeah. This time it was in a cabin. It wasn't camping per se, but it was still lots of fun, and getting to be with my whole family was awesome.
I think the only way you could get me on a camping trip would be more of the glamping
lifestyle.
Yeah,
for sure. Rolling up in an RV somewhere.
An RV, that sounds so nice. Oh man, the glamping.
My God.
Yeah.
I've never done it, but if you were going to get me to do it, that would be it.
Yeah, on the way back from this trip we went on last week, me and Lucas stopped at a Camping World and just looked at the different campers. Some of these are insane.
Oh, it's amazing.
Like one of them had 2 bathrooms, 2 TVs.
Yeah. You're like,
6
this is nicer than my house.
It's probably more expensive than my house too.
Yeah.
Like, they are so nice. But that to me that's not camping.
It's amazing.
Yeah. So our first topic today is a BBC article by Larry Bleiberg. It's titled, "Is This the Summer of Bad Tourists?" Stories are popping up all the time about tourists being disrespectful towards the landmarks they visit, as well as the people they come across on their travels. Last week, it was 2 drunk Americans sneaking into a closed section of the Eiffel Tower and sleeping off their bender high above Paris. The previous week, a French woman was arrested for carving a heart and her initials into Italy's iconic Leaning Tower of Pisa. A Canadian teen defaced a 1,200-year-old Japanese temple last month, just after a Bristol-based man etched 2 names into Rome's Colosseum and told authorities he was unaware of the arena's age. What's different about this summer is we're increasingly hearing about bad travelers, and ultimately this could be a good thing. With each new report of cringeworthy, tone-deaf, or just plain disrespectful behavior, our collective outrage seems to be rising, leading to what could just be a moment of reckoning for bad tourists. This summer's shameful headlines may offer an opportunity for change. With each new offense, we're reminded that international travel is a privilege. So do you guys think that negative attention towards this will make people stop? You know, there are some people out there who think any attention is good attention, whether it's negative or not. So what do you guys think?
I mean, I hope it would deter people because I love traveling and seeing the world and meeting new people and just experiencing different things. And this world is so big and it's fascinating. And it would, for me, it would just be such a shame if we weren't able to go certain places or see certain things because some people can't act right, And I also just think like these people who are doing it would be, I'm guessing, ticked if somebody else came into their country and messed something else up. So it's like, why can't you just act right? Like, who goes to the Leaning Tower of Pisa and carves their initials in it? Like, I don't know. For me, just it blows my mind a little bit just at the kind of the audacity of it all, honestly. But
there seems to be like a loss of any kind of shame when it comes to this kind of stuff too. Like there was another article I was reading about this summer in this live music and concerts where there's been this spell of people rushing onto the stage and like tackling their favorite artist or throwing things throwing things at artists that they paid money to go see. Like, and it's just like, what in the world are we doing to where like, it used to be there's this like common respect for things, and it just seems to be lost, especially towards these things that people consider to be sacred, right? I mean, all these places that are famous landmarks, some of them, like wonders of the world. There just seems to be this loss of this understanding that these were sacred and they mean something to a lot of people. So if they mean something to a lot of people, not even to me, I will honor and respect that because it means something to other people. It comes back to a loss of other-centric thinking. Like I'm sure that the Leaning Tower of Pisa did not mean a ton to this person, right? And there was probably some adult beverages involved with the carving into it. But it's just this loss of thinking, okay, this is sacred. This means something to a group of people. So I'm not going to deface or make this less than what it is because it matters to them. Yeah. And it's sad to me that there seems to be this loss of basic humaning, humaning, just like be a kind human being, like consider others and what it might mean to them. And it just seems to be in this moment that we find ourselves in, just seems to be a common story over and over again of people just thinking about themselves and not considering what this means to the other and whatever that could be. So yeah, I don't know if it's going to deter this at all. I would hope that it would, but and again, a lot of articles aren't sharing these people's names, so hopefully if their names and pictures are this is the person
this guy,
and that guy's like, look at me, I'm in the paper for the wrong reason.
And that's part of it too, I think, is that a lot of this is happening on social media, and so they're doing it for the likes and to go viral, and look at me, I'm famous, and I'm like,
but also the police will find you.
I hope, and so it's like, there is some of that. It's just people will do anything for the attention. I
didn't even think about that angle of
sad.
Like that attention seeking of like there is something that is grabbing of your attention of when you see somebody do something that's you're not supposed to do that. Are they really going to do that? Are they really going to carve their name? Are they really going to climb into the Eiffel Tower and drink a 6-pack of beer and fall asleep? Like, are they really going to do that? And then there is something about us that we want to see that, and then the likes go through the roof, and it's just sad. But that attention-seeking behavior is like, oh man, is this really how we have to do it to harm somebody else? And what they find to be sacred? It's tragic to me.
Yeah. The article also mentioned that some countries have started having tourists sign waivers or have been limiting the amount of tourists allowed in their country because of these types of instances. What are your guys' thoughts on that?
I'm just sad. Like I mentioned, I love to travel, so I would hate to, want to plan a trip someplace and then they're like, sorry, you can't come because you're from there, or because we've already had these incidents, or, so I don't, it's sad. I don't know.
Yeah. I've seen that. Well, it's been this way with Hawaii for a while, where some of the natives are, kind of pushing up against tourists coming just because tourists tend to be very destructive and are ruining some of their natural wildlife and things like that. But I saw a clip the other day from this woman who she was very distraught because people were still coming to Hawaii to swim in the ocean and stuff like that. I read that. And she was like, we just had people die in this ocean and you're swimming and enjoying your time. Yeah. And it just makes me so sad that, that's how these people, the natives, feel about things like this. And
for good reason.
Yeah, because we have no self-awareness.
The ability to have empathy is something that I don't want us to lose as a culture, as a people. And I think it all starts with us and our individual families, but to literally consider this action, how would this affect that other person? It sounds so like kindergarten theology, but the idea of walking a mile in someone's shoes or considering their heart and what this means to them, I mean, it seems to be lost so often, and we just need to hear more stories, tell more stories of that empathy, so that we don't get to a place where it's like, oh, this is why we can't have nice things. Because this is why we can't go there, is because people were like drawing things on Mona Lisa. Like we can't do that anymore, right? So just be human well. Can we human together and realize we're all on the journey together? Come on now.
Our next article today is a Relevant Magazine article by Joel Herbert titled, "What We Get Wrong About Modest is Hottest." In this opinion article, Herbert talks about how modesty has been a topic of conversation for decades in Christian circles. He says usually the idea of modesty was presented innocuously enough with largely good intentions. The idea, or so I gathered as a teenage male, was that young ladies ought to respect themselves enough that they don't have to wear scanty clothing to attract the lustful attention of men/boys. While I agree wholeheartedly that we all have a responsibility to each other to love one another and not intentionally lead one another down destructive or unhealthy paths, there are at least 3 glaring problems with this line of teaching and thinking. His first point is that there's no set idea of what immodesty is. What might seem modest to one person, tradition, or culture might seem immodest to another. It also puts the responsibility for a man's lust and fantasies squarely on the shoulders of women. It grants men and boys amnesty from the responsibility of their own sexual choices. Not only is this insulting to men, but he argues that it conditions boys and young men to struggle. Lastly, he says that the Bible doesn't talk about modesty in the same way we understand it. In 1 Timothy 2:9, it talks about women dressing in the materialistic kind of modesty, not flashy or expensive clothing. So did you guys grow up around the modest, hottest culture, and what did you think about it then versus now?
Oh man, I have been so deeply entrenched in this lovely reality of, modesty and purity culture. So we could probably take this conversation for a few hours, probably. But yes, I was around it. But I think just from being the guy in the room, I would love to hear more about your guys' experience in this. The modesty culture, the purity culture reality, like what it communicated to you, and what sort of the fallout from it today.
Well, yeah, it was always like a church camp, rule kind of thing. Bring your one-piece swimsuit because bikinis are the devil, while these guys are all just running around in their shorts with no shirt on. So I'm like, okay, bro. But cool. But so yeah, I don't know. I just feel like there's always been just a double standard, obviously, of like it's a lot more of our responsibility for your reactions and your actions as a man than anything that I could possibly do or wear or, I have 2 girls and I want them to feel comfortable wearing what they're comfortable in for whatever, is appropriate for the situation that they're in. They're not going to show up to a job interview in, halter tops and short shorts kind of a thing. But like, I just want them to be comfortable. And so I don't know. It's hard to determine what's appropriate sometimes because like I'm going to be comfortable in different things than you're going to be comfortable in or whatever. And so who determines what's appropriate, kind of a thing. So it's hard, but also like I am not responsible for, anybody else's reactions or actions. Yeah. So, and I don't believe that my clothes are going to cause you to behave one way or another. Like for me, that's a you problem. But yeah, what did you, because you grew up a little bit differently than I did too. So
yeah, I mean, I grew up, homeschooled in a Christian home with
pastor parents
So it was a conversation a lot. And I think, I didn't quite understand it as a kid because it was more, I don't think my parents really phrased it as, you're going to make men or boys stumble and things like that. It was just, this is what we wear because that's what we wear. Yeah. And so I think it was frustrating, going clothing shopping and stuff and not getting to wear what I wanted to, or I'd get hand-me-downs from my cousin and my mom would throw away half of it and I couldn't wear the other half, but I think it was just this like frustrating thing as a child because I didn't care what boys thought of me. Like I was in my own little world, I just wanted to wear what I liked and, be comfortable and stuff. So I think it just caused a lot of frustration. My parents have become more relaxed on stuff like that. I think, growing up, they just followed what they saw other homeschool parents doing. Kids, they were still, they were still learning. They didn't know how to approach stuff like that. And so they've gotten a lot better, but I think some of that is still there, especially like seeing people I grew up with, they still like are enforcing that on their own kids or, still have that mindset. I know this is a couple years ago, I saw a tweet from someone that I used to be friends with, and she was in high school at the time when she tweeted this, but it was something about how she wore short shorts and her little brother, like 6-year-old brother, made a comment about it. And she said, I'm throwing away these shorts because he thinks they're attractive. I'm like, no, just because your little brother made a comment about it does not mean that he's attracted to you. Like, that's weird. Yeah.
I think this whole conversation is like, it's a situation of good intentions and terrible fallout, right? Like, because even the author of the article, who I thought was just so brilliant in how he said it, but he talked about like, we do have a responsibility to love one another and to never do something that would be destructive to another person on purpose, right? But like the fallout of this has been, the scales have been so bent towards the burden being on women and with no burden on men and the unintended consequences of over-sexualizing every decision that a woman makes. Like, I mean, honestly, it was really helpful even in this conversation for you to even bring up, like, in the situation and just somebody wearing something that they're comfortable in. Like, that is something from my male brain in this conversation I had never even thought about before, that it's so valid. But the weight of the responsibility of every boy's thoughts and their problems with working out their own hormones being on women and what they wear is just so unfair. And honestly, so not like Jesus and how Jesus dealt with this situation, because Jesus had harsh things to say about lust, radical things to say about sexuality, and never once did he ever throw the weight on women and leave men just to be like, well, it's the girl's fault. He actually did the opposite, actually, and spoke directly to men. And in his teaching in the Sermon on the Mount, this is maybe the toughest teaching that's still not culturally like understood or accepted today, is Matthew chapter 5 verse 27. In the Sermon on the Mount, he says, "But I tell you that anyone who looks at a woman lustfully has already committed adultery with her in his heart. If your right eye causes you to stumble, gouge it out and throw it away. It is better for you to lose one part of your body than your whole body to be thrown into hell. And if your right hand causes you to stumble, cut it off and throw it away. It is better for you to lose one body part than for you to lose your whole soul to hell." I mean, not once does he mention anything about female culpability or blame in a man's fantasies. He goes directly at the man, saying like, hey, if you've got this issue, you need to deal with the root of it in your eye or with your body. Like, you've got to deal with it. And it's so interesting because he's always pointing back. Jesus is always pointing back to the human heart condition underneath of the reason why we do things. And the whole purity culture conversation, the whole modesty conversation is really never going to this surgery level that Jesus is dealing with. It's always like, well, yoga pants, they're out. That's how we fix this whole thing, right? Yeah. And not getting to the thing underneath the thing. So it's fascinating to me that so many of us that claim to follow Jesus, we want to build scaffolding around Jesus's words and not really deal with Jesus' words and not really deal with the method that Jesus dealt with lust, which was a topic he talked about, that it's on the person who's got the issue, and Jesus is saying it's an issue that's going to eat you up, so you need to cut it off at its source so it doesn't destroy you and destroy someone else made in my image. So I'm just fascinated by the way that so often we don't just get things a little wrong, we actually harm the group that we're intending at one point to protect, and it's just we get it so backwards so often. So I long for another day. I think there's messiness to this. This is art, not science, us figuring out how to do this, because here's the question I want to pose to you guys, because like I feel like women towards other women are judgy towards how women dress when it comes to this conversation. So is it not just a man towards woman thing, but it also can be a very Am I reading that wrong, that women can judge other women?
No, for sure. But I think it's differently. Like, I don't know, and maybe it's just cultural too, but like for men, you know, it's looked at for me more as like a responsibility of the things I'm wearing. Towards other women, I think sometimes it's more the jealousy or just the comparison, maybe not even jealousy, but just like coveting almost, like the things that they have, or you know. So women can 1,000,000% be judgy of other women. Do not get that wrong at all. But you know, sometimes I think too, even just like in the Bible and different ways, like I don't think it's necessarily always a male lust kind of thing, but just like a equal parts everyone kind of thing. Like like I want the church to be a place that is open to everyone, whether you're wearing, spaghetti strap top, with the thin straps, or you're wearing your Sunday church best, whatever that is, like this should be a place where it's open to everyone. Everyone's on equal footing. It doesn't matter. And so that's where for me, like clothes have never been anything that I have really cared about. If you know me in real life or on this podcast, I don't accessorize. I don't, I buy clothes from Amazon. I don't care. So that for me has never been big sticking point, but I also don't think it should be like anybody should look at me differently because I am wearing an Amazon Basics versus whatever something fancy might be.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So I don't know.
Yeah.
I think there's just a lot of ways that we communicate what's important, even with the, you know what I mean? Even with things that aren't really that important, like our clothes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And what better picture of the type of faith community that I think Jesus wanted to kick off and still have going today than a community that you didn't check at the door what you were wearing. If it was too little or too extravagant, it didn't really matter. I mean, it is an interesting point, like as the article talks about, like when the Bible does talk about modesty, it is not in the like a scandalized kind of thing. It's more
rags to riches kind
it's
of a
more
thing.
in like the materialistic, like look at that Rolex, like that is what modesty is talked at, about in the scriptures, and we just demonize women and over sexualize everything as we do. And can we just have like one thing that we all agree with in this whole conversation, that nobody should ever say modest is hottest, because that's the grossest phrase.
It really is.
I'm like parents saying that, or pastors, like stop it. It's gross.
Or like Matthew West's song that
don't even bring that up.
So bad.
Oh no, I don't think I know this
kids,
one.
Basically.
Oh gosh,
it's bad. It was a dark time in Christian history. That song.
Yeah.
He's probably a great guy, Matthew West, but
I stopped listening to his music after that song.
Now I need to know. You're gonna have to drop it in here or something. I don't know.
We're gonna have to put the parental advisory sticker on this episode if we play that trash.
Well, I'm gonna have to go back on YouTube later.
So on the topic of clothes, what fashion trend did you get into that you look back on and regret?
This is so easy for me.
Oh, gosh, I'm here for this.
When I was in 6th grade and I started to care about the clothes that I was wearing to school, there were these jeans that were popular for probably like a year. I don't even know. Called Jinkos.
Oh, yeah.
JNCO. And
you
they
had
were
so much room in those pockets. They went down to your knees.
I could put all my school books. I didn't have a water bottle in my back pocket. I had like a 12-pack of water bottles in my pocket.
Yes.
But like they're like the widest leg pants. Like they look so ridiculous. And I was like begging back to school shopping for my parents to let me get one pair of Jinkos from JCPenney. And my dad was like, "You're not buying those. They look so stupid." I'm like, "No, Dad, you don't know anything about fashion." And I thank my parents all the time. They're like, "Thanks for not letting me wear Jinkos." That was so embarrassing. But do a quick Google search if you haven't seen them, or maybe we'll drop a picture in the show notes. But that's what Joel wanted to be rocking circa 1999, 2000. Let's go.
For me, I know, the reigniting of skinny jeans has been a thing that's, I think, come and maybe gone again. I don't
still
really
here.
know.
Don't tell me it's not here
I don't.
anymore.
Well,
I've been told it's out, but all
I
my
know
pants
that's me. But I'm like, I'm still gonna wear them because it's who I am. I don't care.
Yep.
But way back in the day when I was in middle school, we tight rolled our jeans. Okay, so this was before the whole jean was actually tight. This is where like you had regular jeans, like straight leg jeans, and then you spent so much time like pulling them over as far as they'll go at the ankle and rolling them up. It was so much work, first of all. Second of all, it looked kind of ridiculous because the top part of your pant was still like normal pant and just the bottom was so tight. Anyways, I wish I had never. And looking back, the stress of the tight rolled jeans, maybe that's where all my anxiety stems from. I don't really know. I have to work on that in counseling. What about you, Abby?
So I didn't really fall into fashion trends a whole lot, just because
come
I was.
on.
You were homeschooled.
Yeah, I was
You can't play that.
So no, I still haven't answered, Joel.
Okay, good. Okay.
But like the thing when I was younger was gaucho pants, especially in homeschool circles, because they were like more modest version of leggings.
Because they were so loose and
but
flowy,
they're
right?
loose. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I wore those. I remember like anytime I'd go to homeschool co-op or be hanging out with friends and I wanted people to think I was cool.
Yeah.
I was wearing my gaucho pants. They looked so stupid looking back on them.
Rocking the
Listen.
gaucho pants.
Yeah.
I'm here for it. Bring them back. I don't even mind.
I just wanted to avoid the floor length skirts that
yes.
everyone was wearing
That was
as
your
homeschoolers.
concession.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, did they make men's gaucho pants? Was that a thing for guys too?
I don't think so.
Because
Maybe.
they kind of look like Aladdin pants to me when I think about it. Like wearing those, I'm like, I could be like Aladdin. Street rat. Dun, 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 dun.
I'm Googling right now.
Men's
Men gaucho pants.
And
They are a thing.
Let's go.
They do look a little Aladdin-like. You're right. Actually, now that you say that.
That's funny.
That's
oh my gosh.
Next Sunday on the stage, Joel in gaucho pants. Be here or be square.
Wow.
So our final topic today is a CNN article by Carrie Sheffield titled "Christian Conservatives Betray Their Values in Criticizing Ramaswamy's Faith." Sheffield starts the article by saying, "It's discouraging to see some of my fellow conservatives attacking rising GOP presidential candidate Vivek Ramaswamy for his Hindu faith. It is wrong and un-American. It violates the spirit, if not the law, of the Constitution, and it could backfire on Christians as our share of the U.S. population dwindles. Many prominent Republicans are unsure of Ramaswamy solely for the fact that he's Hindu, claiming that it will cause Hinduism to rise in popularity in the U.S. if he's president." Sheffield goes on to say, "America is currently a majority Christian nation at 63%. But as more and more people leave Christianity and secularism rises, Jesus' golden rule tells Christians they shouldn't discriminate against non-Christians if they don't want the same. As our numbers decrease, we need allies more than ever." She says, "To my fellow Christians, is your faith in salvation so weak that you think it's diminished by supporting a non-Christian seeking secular office? Jesus' Great Commission, his final instructions before ascending into heaven, didn't include tearing down a Hindu political candidate. Instead, they offered a much higher calling, to spread the gospel to every nation. Rather than attacking a Hindu politician who will protect Judeo-Christian values, Christian conservatives would better spend their time helping the faith grow. Right now, they're only overseeing its continued decline among the American people." So what do you think about her opinions of having someone who isn't Christian in the White House? Joel sent me this article, so I'll have him start.
I have a lot of opinions. I don't know where to even begin, right? I was so drawn to this. I follow the American political cycle to the own demise of my mental health, probably. But I'm just fascinated by this because it seems to me that like one of the tenets of the conservative movement in our country has been religious freedom, to be like, hey, we need to make sure that the government is not infringing on our abilities to practice our religion. We take that all the way back to, and I'm a huge fan of religious freedom. Big fan. Love it. But I think we're redefining it, sadly, honestly. But I'm a big fan of it because you take it back to the very beginning of our country to where these were people that were fleeing Europe to actually come to a new place where they could practice their religious beliefs freely without any government oversight, right? And that's something that we hold so dear and we have for so long. And inside of the conservative political worldview, that's something that has been like something that they've been bemoaning there's been a loss of in our country as our society is more secularized. There seems to be this fear of, hey, they've already started telling you can't do certain things. The government, they're already pushing against this. And so there's been this kind of like fear mongering of, hey, we're losing this. We're being persecuted in our country and we need to stand up for religious freedom. And I'm kind of blown away and disappointed by those same people fighting for religious freedom only to be fighting for it when it's their religion. And if you're only fighting for religious freedom for your religion, you're not fighting for religious freedom. You're fighting for your country to be exactly all like you. Yeah. And that's the only thing, which I can't wrap my head around as being a follower of Jesus. I think there's a lot of valid things when we talk about any political candidate running for office that we can disagree with, and Christians can have different understandings and different opinions on what this means and how that all plays out. But to just block somebody because of their claimed faith, man, that's not what we're doing here. And it seems to be that redefinition of religious freedom only for my religion instead of religious freedom to this great big melting pot of you can come here and practice, which is what we want, we're all about, right? Yeah. Like that's why it all started, and I'm kind of blown away by that. The other reality that I just felt like I had to speak to a little bit was this understanding that politicians and what they say their religious beliefs are is a political statement.
Yeah.
Like, and so like anytime that anybody is saying, well, I'm a Christian, so you should vote for me, like that is a political system. And for so long, people on the left and the right, in the middle, equal offending here, people use religion to try to connect with voters.
Yeah.
And so anytime that you're like, well, I'm voting for this person because they're a Christian, I'm like, well, I'm not a Christian because I put Christian on my Facebook. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like on my religious beliefs.
What am I actually doing?
What's the fruit of my life? What trail do I leave behind me? Is it the trail that Jesus left behind him? That would make me a Christian, right? But if it's just because I marked a certain box or I tell people and I hold a Bible up, that doesn't make somebody a Christian. So I'm thinking about this a lot because we're going to be doing a teaching series in the beginning of 2024 at our church just about how we can engage faithfully in politics and how do we do it responsibly, because I'm a glutton for punishment. That's why we're doing it. I love ticking people off. But no, I'm thinking about it a lot because I think for too long we've just been duped by thinking that what a politician says on a stage is the marker for us. Yeah. So the reality is Vivek Ramaswamy could be a practicing Hindu. And he could, in a way, because all truth is God's truth, have some principles from his faith that are going to leave more fruit that looks like Jesus than somebody who is a Christian, and stands up and has no thought about the least, the last, the left behind, the underclass, and is pushing hate and fear. And that person can say they're a Christian. And I don't want us to be people that just vote for people because of what they say. What's the trail they've left behind them? What vision do they have for what kind of culture and society and what governance looks like? And so to me, I just wish I would have written this article that Carrie Sheffield wrote, because she is a follower of Jesus, and she was just blown away by this like redefinition of what religious freedom is, and this attack on this person because of what they claim and saying we're going to vote for people. We should only vote for Christians because they say they're Christians. I'm like, show me you're a Christian, right?
Also, we've all met people out in the world who, not just politicians, but in our everyday life, who claim to be Christians, but also you look at their life and you're like, but are you? You know? And so like, I just think this is such a bigger thing, but it's being brought to light a little differently because, it's politics and it's the president and that's a, huge office. And what do you do if, somebody who's not a practicing Christian is in the office? Like the whole White House just explodes or something. And I'm like, that's not how it works. You know? And
do we think that every person, because we have only had professing Christians in the office of the presidency of the United States. Professing Christians. We've never had anybody of any other faith, not anybody who's ever claimed to be an atheist or anything like that. And do we truly believe that every one of those men thus far were people that were like every day waking up like, I'm going to follow Jesus and I want to like live
did my 5 a.m. devotion.
No, come on, guys. And I think so. I just think religious people on the whole have been duped into this. Yeah. And we think that, because they dog whistle and they might quote a Bible verse or they might say, I'm going to stand for the Bible, that's what's going to happen. Yeah. No, I don't fall for that. And I think people on the left and right alike, we've been duped in a lot of ways. So I am for religious freedom, and I don't care who knows it with my politician thumb in the air. And that means that I want to live in a pluralistic society where people are free to practice, because I think that if they're free to practice, that means that I'm free to practice. And that means I'm free to love and to serve and to have conversations with people that are different than me. And it's not going to change anything. And so we need that. Yeah. And it's just, to me, we can have conversations all day about Ramaswamy's policies. And the question that I think we should be wrestling with before we, in Indiana at least, circle in the little circles or poke through the little circles on our ballots is not like, what do they say their religious affiliation is, but what is their vision for the country, and what is their vision of governance, and what is their vision for what they think they can lead us towards. And if that looks more like the kingdom of God values, Sermon on the Mount values that I'm trying to live my life by, for me personally, I'm probably going to vote there. But it's not going to be a one straight ticket reality, because there's crookedness on both sides. There's people on both sides, that kind of a thing. And I will also say, even if I vote for somebody because of my religious beliefs and values, it doesn't mean that you can't vote for somebody else because of your religious beliefs and values. We can disagree, and there's gray in this reality. But everybody should have a seat at the table, even Vivek Ramaswamy, and not taken away an opportunity from them because of their religious beliefs or unbeliefs or whatever it might be. I mean, we're right on that 50% line in the country today of people that have no religious beliefs. Are we thinking that we've never had an actual president or we never will that doesn't have that reality? Yeah. So it's a messy topic, and it's going to be messier over these next, probably 12 months through this political cycle. But I think the word that I want us to keep in front of us in this is, we can't have religious freedom if it's only for us. How did Jesus use his freedom? How did he use his privilege? How did he use his voice and his power? He used it by giving it away, by opening it up and serving. And that's what we should want from our leaders in our government. And that's what we should want from the people that even have the opportunity to be voted for.
Yep. And just do a lot of research. You mentioned you want to live in a country that is, for religious freedom, which I do as well. But I also want to live in a country where people don't just read the headlines. Do your research. It's okay. Don't just go with whatever the TV's telling you.
Allison, they're on TikTok. They don't need anything else. You guys have taught me so much. They just need TikTok.
Listen, you can get the best sound bites.
He said sarcastically.
Yes, you can get a lot of news on TikTok, but also do your own research. And that's where I think a lot of times, because either, we have a lot of excuses. We're busy, we don't understand, we're, it's above our pay grade kind of a thing, but you can figure it out if you spend enough time and you have enough desire. And so I think that is also just my biggest hope for our country is just do some research, people. Do some research.
It's not in 140 characters.
I'm out.
Sadly, that's me being cynical.
Well, that's it for this episode of Atypical Talk. If you have any questions, topics you'd like us to talk about, you can email those to atypicaltalkpod@gmail.com. Make sure to follow us on Instagram and Facebook at Atypical Talk Pod. And make sure to subscribe on your favorite podcast platform so you can get updates when new episodes air. We are also on YouTube now as well. Make sure to go follow us on there at Atypical Talk Pod. We hope that these conversations today have helped you think wider, love deeper, and partner with God to bring the up there down here in your everyday life. Thanks for listening.